Before dawn on July 4th, 1776, Philadelphia stirred with anxious energy. The narrow streets around the Pennsylvania State House, later called Independence Hall, were already alive with whispered rumors and hurried footsteps. 13 British colonies stood on the edge of an irreversible decision. For more than a year, fighting had raged between colonial militias and British troops. Blood had been spilled at Lexington, Concord, and Bunker Hill. Yet the question still lingered. Were these colonies demanding their rights as Englishmen are declaring themselves a new nation? Inside the State House, the Continental Congress faced the weight of history. The delegates were not rebels by nature. Many were lawyers, merchants, landowners, who had once been proud subjects of the British Crown. But years of taxation without representation, dissolved assemblies, and military occupation had hardened their resolve. King George III had rejected petitions and declared the colonies in rebellion. Too many delegates, separation no longer felt radical, it felt inevitable. The document before them had been shaped by weeks of debate and revision. Thomas Jefferson, only 33 years old, had drafted its core in a rented room nearby. John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Roger Sherman, and Robert Livingston had refined its language. Every sentence mattered. This was not just a complaint against a king. It was a justification to the world for revolution. When the Congress approved the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, it did more than sever political ties. It announced a bold idea. The governments exist to protect the natural rights of the people, and when they fail, the people have the right to change them. Jefferson's words, "All men are created equal," rang with moral clarity. Even as they clashed with the reality of slavery and exclusion, the promise was imperfect, but it was revolutionary. The decision was far from unanimous in spirit, even if the vote carried. Many delegates knew the risks. By signing, they were committing treason against the British Crown, a crime punishable by death. As Benjamin Franklin famously warned, we must, indeed, all hang together, or most assuredly we shall all hang separately. Their signatures pledged our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. No empty phrase, in a world where British warships dominated the seas. Outside the hall, ordinary Americans would not immediately feel a nation being born. The war was far from over. British forces still occupied New York, and victory was uncertain. For soldiers in the Continental Army, many of them poorly supplied and unpaid, independence was an idea worth suffering for, but not yet a reality. The Declaration would need to be defended on battlefields, not just proclaimed on paper. When the news reached the public, reactions varied. In Philadelphia, the Declaration was read aloud days later, and crowds reportedly cheered as symbols of royal authority were pulled down. In other places, the announcement was met with silence or fear. Loyalist colonists who supported Britain saw the Declaration as dangerous madness. Families were divided, neighbors turned suspicious, and the war took on a bitter civil character. Internationally, the Declaration was a signal flare. It told France and other European powers that the colonies were no longer seeking compromise, but independence. This clarity would later help secure French support, a turning point that made eventual victory possible. Words, in this case, helped change the balance of power. Yet the birth of America on July 4th was not a single moment of triumph. It was the beginning of a long struggle to live up to declared ideals. Independence did not end in equality, injustice, or conflict. Native Americans, enslaved Africans, women, and the poor were largely excluded from the new nation's political life. Still, the Declaration planted a standard by which future generations would measure America and challenge it. The day America was born was not marked by fireworks or parades. It was marked by ink, courage, and uncertainty. A group of imperfect men chose to risk everything for an untested idea that a people could govern themselves. The nation that emerged would stumble, expand, and argue endlessly over what those words truly meant. But on that July day in 1776, a line was crossed, the world was changed forever.